guys, and welcome to another episode of One Pod Life. Now this week I'm talking to Alex Buckner, who is one of the best short game coaches working with professional golfers. He's helping them to understand and improve not only their technique but also their thinking over their short game. We talk about how Alex has made his way from a player to a coach and how he wants to improve himself so that he can pass on that knowledge on to his students. Now if you've ever suffered with your short game, maybe some yips or whatever, this is actually a really good podcast to listen to and understand what else it takes to actually be a good short game player. So without further ado, please welcome onto the podcast Alex Buckner. Let's start with Alex Buckner. So where did you start getting involved in golf? Did you play golf when you were younger? Did you have a budding playing career? Really sort of the early years before you started sort of teaching, when you started working at Bearwood Lakes.
Yeah, so I think everyone starts off playing, don't they? I think every coach is a failed player at some stage. And I didn't take golf seriously enough until I was about 13. Played for my county, BBNO, and was always like middle of the pack, you know. And I think from there, I was just, you know, playing with mates. I was a good competitor, always good at sports, but, you know, I was losing to people that I felt that didn't hit it as good as me, especially in my later teens, and, you know, not as in good shape as me, this, that and the other. And I found that quite annoying because in other sports, I would rip them apart. But I also loved the idea of golf, the fact that that's even possible. So, just loved it from a real early age. And I sort of ran out of money by the time I was 18, sort of needed to go to work, and the playing career took a complete backseat because I wasn't good enough. So I didn't get the sponsors, didn't have any money. So work it was. And the teaching career came as a result.
Oh, good stuff. So, okay, who got you into golf then? And normally it's sort of like a family member sort of gets you in, but for you, where did that start?
My brother played. He didn't really get me into it though, if I'm honest, because, you know, I played for the sake of the fact that I could actually hang out with him when he was at home. But no, it was actually a couple of mates at school, played football. I felt like I was one of the better people in the teams, and then, you know, we'd lose a game and I'd be like, well, I performed great, so why am I losing? So I asked my mates on a school bus, I said, what do you do in the summer? They said, we're going to play golf. I was like, oh, you saddos. And but I thought, you know what, I'll do it anyway. Got beat like so badly. And because I got beat, that's the whole reason why I got into it. Because I just hate losing.
which is a good mentality to have, really.
It's a stupid thing, really, isn't it? You got into a sport where it's, you know, I was listening to something this morning. Jack Nicklaus has the best record on earth, and he said, I lose 90% of the time, you know. And we're in this sport where you lose more than that, because he's the greatest player that's arguably ever lived. You know, lose 99% of the time. And yet we've picked a sport where we hate losing, but lose all the time. And that thing always makes me laugh.
It's an interesting one. So like you said, so you tried to obviously to be a pro. Unfortunately, like you said, you ran out of money when you were 18. So the teaching sort of came in. So at what point did you start thinking, okay, I want to stay in the game, but I want to teach? And then where did your first break come to actually get into teaching?
Yeah, that's a great question. I kept within golf purely for the fact that I was rubbish at everything else. So I had no other choice, really. It was golf or stacking shelves. And I just done my PGA and was just working at a club. So like you said, you know, Bearwood Lakes was the first one of many, and done a few other pro shop bits and bobs. Ended up at Swinley, and because I had a couple of decent golf clubs on my CV, I was like, that's it, I'm going to become a director of golf. I'm going to work in a pro shop, be a head pro, blah, blah, blah. Done all my qualifications for all that. And I remember just looking at my boss one day and going, you know what, this ain't for me. I want to be involved in the idea of playing golf at an elite level. But could I do that by playing? Sort of felt like I felt like I missed the boat on that one. I wasn't good enough. But I wanted to be involved somehow. So teaching therefore came as a result, and I got pretty decent at. Well, I say pretty decent. I got okay at long game coaching originally, and I guess my first break was one of my friends who's a PGA pro, and he saw a little bit of effort, and he actually said, "You know what? Can you look at my swing and just let me know what you think?" And we ended up doing work together for about a year, and he got some decent results, and it sort of led into better players coming my way, and that's originally how it started, I think. And breaks come as you go through, but I think that was the real first one.
Okay, cool. And like you said, you got your PGA professional qualification, and obviously normal route is they teach the all-round game. And you said just then you felt like you were okay at long game teaching. So again, at what point did you start? Because obviously I don't know if people know, but you're obviously well known for your short game, and obviously you've got your own podcast called the Wedge Pod. And obviously a lot of guys go to specialize in their wedges. So again, at what point did you start thinking, well, I just want to specialize in one area and become the best in that?
So it was part, I know what everyone wants me to say. I really love short game, this, that, and the other. It was the best thing about my game. And, I really wanted to teach it, but that wasn't actually the case. It was a bit more of a business decision, if I'm honest. So I sort of saw the trend in basically teams around elite players. The goal was to basically teach elite players, because that's where my interest comes from. That's what basically motivates me to get out of bed in the morning. I love the idea of elite performance. So I was like, right, how do I do that? And I just sort of looked around. I was like, right, okay, there's a big emphasis on teams in an elite athlete. This whole thing of, one guy looking after every single part of the game, jack of all trades, is sort of slowly going. And people are starting to get, you say, putting specialists, long drive specialists, distance, having a gym, PT even, and all of a sudden the team can become a 5. So I was just a bit like, well, what part could I play in that? And I sort of looked at the facility at Swinley, and I thought, well, I can't do distance because the driving range was like 230 yards. It wasn't long. I was like, right, can I go down to psychology? Probably could, but I'd have to probably go back to uni or something like that. Could I do putting? And I sort of looked in the area, and there was a few putting coaches, and I sort of looked at actually, well, the knowledge on putting, I believe, has actually evolved quite a lot and is in a good place. And I looked at basically wedge play, and I just couldn't find anything. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't think of many people that were really known for it either. I generally know a lot more people that do it now, that's for sure. But it generally wasn't a thing when I was looking into it. And I was like, you know what, actually, let's give that a go. Because I was always all right at short game, but I sort of didn't know anything about it. So, yeah, that's when I started seeking a little bit of help, and all because I sort of seek that initial help and then grew the interest from it, this, that, and the other. Got more people to actually, experiment with, build up my knowledge base and build up some experience.
No, great stuff. I think that's really good. The fact that you actually looked at it and tried to identify where you could, I guess, add value to someone's game. And like you said, the team game is now becoming more and more of a thing. Like you said, you'll see people with putting coaches, wedge coach, short game coaches, long game coaches, driving coaches, PTs, mental coaches. So it is a proper production now that's going on with a player, even to a level on the mini tours, because even those guys are doing the exact same thing. Obviously, as you know, you've got a few of those guys come to you for their short game, which I think is great. Yeah, no, definitely.
I mean, the mini tour thing is, there's a few players that I think don't treat themselves like European tour players because they haven't made it yet. But, the double-edged sword to that is the fact that, well, you sort of have to pretend you're there already.
Yep.
No, you have to work like one in order to get there. Yeah, definitely. Because, the amount of people that don't invest in a caddy or anything like that, what do you do when you get to European tour? Do you know what I mean? You have to learn the ropes of what, a good caddy does, etc. I think you just have to pretend you're there already and do everything you can to pretend you're one until you get there.
Okay. Well, I was you mentioned you worked at a few golf clubs. I've got written down here: Bearwood Lakes, Lavender Park, Burnham Beaches, Swinley Forest, and obviously you work part time at the golf college now as well with Paul Lyons, Dennis Pugh, and Jack Bado. So again, what sort of opportunity did you get there to sort of work alongside with those guys, and what are you actually doing at the golf college?
The opportunity sort of like arose, and they want a few more people in there, and I think they just want every single department basically looked at for a player. The college system in the UK is pretty bad. It's not like America, and I think the golf college is trying to fill up that gap where Paul does a great job. Jack's super knowledgeable, worked under Dennis Pugh for years, and so we've got each department pretty much looked at. We've even got Stuart in for 3D stuff. And, the kids are so lucky these days. There's no excuse to not be able to get better. And I think they're just trying to, let's make sure the fact stones are not unturned. Let's make sure the fact we've got everything that we can do to get these people the best that they possibly can. So my role at the college is very much, it's group environment stuff as well as individual stuff. But, there's so much more to do with wedge play than striking it. It's probably one of my pet hates. And luckily at the college, because you spend enough time with them, you sort of get to, they're forced to see me, right? So, I can actually educate them in the idea of reading lies, what shots to play, understanding what best suits them, etc. And we do a lot of that stuff. It's, I think a lot of people have this envision of what a lesson should be like. Can you strike it? Yes. Right. Cheers. Let's move on. There's just so much more to it, such as like the total of a shot, understanding how do you adapt to a slope, etc. How do you hit at a different firmnesses of bunkers, blah blah blah. So we're just covering all bases.
Okay, cool. So you are pretty much given a proper education then, and like you said, they're kind of forced to come and see you as part of the team. So for them, they are literally getting every basis covered that they can ever think of.
That's it, right? What?
Yeah.
I mean, what a great opportunity that is.
Perfect.
Not to say the fact they're lucky to have me, but it's. I wish I was at college and having that opportunity for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, cool. So, you said you're currently working with one European Tour player. Can you say who that is? Richard Mansell managed to come fourth on Challenge Tour last year in a pandemic year, which is just amazing. And because normally there's 20 spots, managed to get into one of the top 5 spots even after a COVID positive on, I think it was like the second last tournament of the year. So he done an amazing job to get a card this year. And so he's got full playing rights in the European Tour. No, good stuff. Yeah, I've had Richard on the podcast in the past, and he was a great conversationalist. And after that, I'm pretty qualified. So I'm going to say that coming on my podcast really helped him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all down to you.
Exactly. So okay. So what is it? So if you can dive into a little bit of detail into what it is you and Richard are actually working on, without obviously give away too many secrets. What is it? What's been the main focus in transitioning him from a Challenge Tour player to a European Tour player?
I think, you say without giving too much away, but I think a lot of people would think that, it's technique, but it's not. It's about understanding the golf course. Where are you playing at? What type of grass is it? Where are your misses? What shots do you need for the week? How are you therefore going to actually structure your practice to be able to then perform at your best? Because when you go to these different golf courses, you've got unlimited golf shots that you could possibly have, or should I say, around the green there is unlimited options that you could have. You could be on a downhill slope with really, really dense thick grass with the grain into you and the ball sat down. You would therefore need a type of shot depending on what the green's doing, and then you can have like a tight lie and the green being miles above you, you need a different type of shot. So when you go to a golf course, I think there's like a good 2 or 3 shots that you might need for the week, depending on how the golf course is set up. Whether the greens are elevated or not, what the grass is around the green. And you know what, sometimes 2 extreme cases like this year was the fact that Belfry, there was literally not really a single shot that you could leave on a fairway lie around the green. It's just all massively thick rough and there's like slopes. So it's like, right, okay, how do we therefore adapt ourselves for this week? How do we then prepare the shots we need? And then you go to something like Royal St George's, where there's a lot of tight lies, So, okay, hold on a second. We need a completely different set of different shots. You could go around the green and practice everything, and you could be there for years. The idea is we're trying to be as efficient as possible to try and figure out what shots we need for the week, and making sure the fact we can get good at them and be comfortable by Thursday.
Great stuff. So I guess you was with him at the Open then, and going around with him in practice rounds and discussing that type of thing, or is it from a distance?
Exactly it. Yeah, exactly it. And once you know, then you know, and then it's all about making sure that you got a pretty decent prep and making sure the fact that there's, you know what club you're hitting, you know what shot you're hitting, how the pace of the green is going to react, etc. So, making sure it's all dialed in from that point of view. Because I know a lot of the mini tour players would turn around and just be like, right, well, it's this golf course. I'll chip a few balls and then off we go. It's that's pretty much the mentality, isn't it?
Well, I think it's the same for most amateurs.
It's trying to steer. Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. I'll chip a few balls and see how I go. But the green's changing all the time, depending on obviously what the weather is, what time of the year it is, etc. It's and golf courses change. There's different misses on every golf course. So trying to shift that mindset from with people is quite hard. It's actually one of the more challenging things. But with Richard, he bought into it from day one, and that's half the reason why he's so good.
No, great stuff. No, perfect. Okay, cool. So you're I'm not sure what this actually means, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. You're currently undertaking the Humar Golf Mastery Program. A, what is it? And then B, what you're going to get out from it?
Yeah, so I forgot I was even on my website, to be honest. So I've recently moved to Reigate because of COVID, and he was very kind enough to take me in over the COVID period with people that had, how would you put it, permission to be able to train over the pandemic, and then the sort of fitted out quite well. So I got offered a full-time position, and being a younger coach, and I've done quite a lot of education as such to be able to understand the knowledge of what maybe it is to strike a ball well, regarding wedge play and all the little technicalities of it all. But how to necessarily manage a player on tour is probably something that comes with experience, and Hugh knows a lot about that. So he said, why don't you come onto my coach mastery program? We basically call once a week, we do some assignments, and I basically have different modules for you to complete. So we're going to really dive into who you are as a human being, as well as how we can basically, turn your weaknesses as a coach into some strengths and guide you along the way. So it's basically a mentorship as such. And I just felt, if he's my boss at the moment at Reigate, as well as then catching up with every week, and he's probably got the most relevant information that I need to improve myself at the moment, it makes sense to sort of tie the two together. So there's a few people on it, but not many. But I think it's the first time this year he's done it all, and it just seemed to be a good fit. And learning lots about myself, as well as some of the things I'm therefore expected probably to be as a coach, and not just basically how to improve some to strike the ball better.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, I think it's quite amicable on your part that a lot of people could just sit on their laurels and go, well, I just teach short game, this is what I do. But the fact that you're actually looking to better yourself as a person, which will then obviously filter doul to your coaching, which will then filter down to the players, I think that's really good.
I think you always got to. Yeah, I always view myself as as an athlete, as weird as that is to be a coach and call yourself that. But, at the end of the day, I'm trying to improve so then my players can improve. And if I'm not improving quicker than them, then, at the end of the day, I want to be able to be one step ahead of them at all times. I want to make sure the fact that they get the best relevant information as possible, so then they can therefore perform the best they possibly can. And if I'm not doing that, I'm not really holding any justice, or shall I say, any promise of the fact that I'm actually doing the best job I possibly can. And I'm quite happy to throw my hand up if I don't know something, but at the end of the day, it doesn't mean I'm never going to know, 100% will.
No, good stuff. I like that. Okay. As well as one of your other little accolades, you're also a qualified Titleist Vokey club fitter and ball fitter. So obviously, that's quite a good little thing to be part of.
Yeah, not qualified.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But that's all right. We can edit that out. But not necessarily qualified, but I offer the service. So I'm trying to think of how long ago it was now. It's probably about a year ago, I'm going to say, where I sort of was building a client base up of short game clients. And I just sort of realized actually, well, the first step of chain of influence isn't set up. And that's what I really thought. If you really think about it, if you were to hold a kid's golf club, your setup would change, right? And if you got given a ladies' golf club, you probably wouldn't swing it the same way as you would if you were to have your own golf clubs, if you're a man, that is. And now I also started to really on a second. The golf club and the golf ball are one of the first chains of influences of how someone moves. So as much as I started to think, well, okay, right, I want a player to be able to do this if he's doing this wrong, or blah, 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 blah. I started to realise, actually, on the second, a lot of these things could be resolved if they had the right golf club and the right ball. And all of a sudden I started going, I'm good friends with Will Harvey, got a great podcast on my podcast about sort of what the technicalities of a wedge and what it can do to the ball flight and etc. It's amazing the amount of things that you want the ball to be able to do, and it can all be done by a different golf club. Is amazing. Overeducated in driver in that respect and irons, but wedge play, considering how much it has an effect on your scoring, I don't know what the percentage is, but if I was to have a rough guess, I reckon 99% of people aren't fitted with wedges. It's quite scary.
Well, no, if you're like most people, you go to a shop, think, I need a 58-degree wedge, which is great, but then have you got the right grind? Have you got the right loft? Have you got the right lie? Obviously, the whole shaft could be completely different. There's a whole raft of things that you need to look into. And again, I'll put my hands up. I'm a sucker to that. I've just bought 3 new wedges, but are they the right grind and the right thing for me? I don't know, but I like them.
Yeah, no, exactly, right? Exactly. It's all to do with ball flight at the end of the day, right? That's what we're trying to achieve, and put the ball in the hole a little bit faster. But if you have certain shots that come up and, you're a little bit stumped even, and you go, why on earth is that happening? For me, I just got into the club fitting side of it and the ball fitting side of it. I'm 100% not a fitter, but I just wanted to be more aware of how much of an influence these things could have. So if I'm looking at a player, and this is a good one, a championship player actually, to be fair, he was given a set because he's contracted, had a golf club and a ball, and hit it, and he couldn't spin his wedges. And you give him a different golf club and a different ball, and he gained, I think it was like 4,000 revs of spin in one shot. And you're thinking that, all of a sudden, my job's done. And I think he turned around to me and said, "Are you a salesman?" And I thought, actually, hold on a second. I laughed originally, but I was thinking, well, if I've managed to be able to improve your ball flight the way you wanted to without touching your technique, the idea of a coach is to be able to improve performance, right?
Yep.
And if giving the right equipment is part of that, then I'm going to call it coaching rather than fitting, personally. But that was the whole reason why I got into it.
Yeah, I think it's, like I say, it's all part and parcel, isn't it? You need to know what's happening with the club so you can advise the player better. So
yeah, no, exactly. I see a few full swing people it's with, like, how would you put it, like younger people, and they've trying to swing it a certain way, but the lie angle's all over the shop. But the only reason why it is because of their technique or something like that. I think you need to know a bit of both to understand the full picture. That's what I found from it anyway.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting field to dive into. And I must admit, I've never been for a wedge fitting. I've had lessons with my coach roughly on short game, but nothing really in too deep. So I think it's definitely saying that people should start, if they're looking to be at that elite level, they need to definitely look into it and get everything in place that works with, like you said, with the ball and the club. Make sure it all works perfectly fine.
No, definitely.
As I stare at my wedges right now, thinking, are they right for me?
Yeah, it's a good question, Mark, isn't it?
Now, One Pod Life is brought to you in partnership with Energy Golf, the leading golf development platform. They are committed to providing a service that allows you to reach your maximum potential by improving your mindset, creating physical longevity, and funding your golf career. What they've done is take professional tour team experience and brought it to you through their platform so you can have your very own tour team in your pocket. Energy Golf offers the ability to learn from leading professionals in the fields of fitness, nutrition, breathing, caddying, psychology, business, as well as proven tour winners and many more. There are also courses based around the mental aspects of golf, such as mental toughness, emotional control, and self-esteem. Visit energy.com to learn more, and to claim your exclusive 1 month free trial, simply send an email with the subject OnePodLife to info@energy.com and enjoy. Now let's get back to the podcast. What we're moving to now is I just want to pick your brain on. I've just thought another question as well, which I want to ask as well. But first of all, obviously you hang around with a lot of people, professional golfers that are on the mini tours. Obviously you got Richard on the European tour. And the question is, I guess, what do you think it takes to become a professional golfer?
Oh, that's a great question. Be good at be good at the bigger stuff, but also it's just pure clarity every day. I think is something that gets lost with people. Just understanding actually what you're doing on the range, or you say around the short game area or something like that, and go, right, what am I actually going to achieve out of today? You know, a lot of people, I always use the -1 and +1 effect. If you're doing 1 hour of decent work, you go +1 up. If you were on the practice ground for, let's say, 8 hours, 2 hours was good work, and another 6 hours was bad work, then all of a sudden you're well into the minus figures all of a sudden, and at -4. So I just think the fact that to be able to be good on the tour, I think a lot of emphasis is put on hard work. But I think hard work comes with smart work, personally, because I see there's too many stories where people work hard and don't make it. And if that was the case, the hardest working person would make it, right? Whoever stood on the practice ground at Swan Golf Club and hit the most balls would make it. But you hear that story and over again, they didn't do anything and didn't get anywhere. Whereas you got that person that does like 4 hours, but because it's such a good 4 hours, and they're rested and they've recovered and this, that, and the other, they go to do really well. So I think it's clarity and smart work that really separates people, personally.
No, good answer. I think you're completely right. Like I said, there's been many a golfer that spent hours and hours hitting balls in the range, and they've just been a good professional golfer. They haven't actually pushed on anywhere. And like you said, people who work a little bit smarter do go a little bit further.
There's another thing in that as well, is the fact that like a lot of people hit, loose shots on the golf course, and, you talk to them about it and go, right, well, did you execute it badly? And they see that as like the result and go, yeah, I executed it badly. I go, no, what do you mean by it? Did you strike it the way you wanted it? And they go, yeah, I just chose the wrong club, or I misread the wind and I had the wrong the wind, and I was aiming rubbish. I didn't go through my pre-shot routine. And you know what? You go through the entire round, you can name like 10 things that are completely in your control that have nothing to do with technique. And you go, okay, right, well, how are you going to work on that? And they turn around and no, play more, which is like a rubbish. Half the answers within it. Same mistakes and stuff that you can control. The way you can get at that, such as like the thing I really emphasize around the green is reading. How often do you practice reading? Do you understand what the conditions are doing? Do you understand how to adapt to them? It's actually got nothing to do with striking the ball. It's about understanding what you're faced with and how you're to get the ball closer to the hole. Because a lot of people just hit the same shot, don't read it, don't go through a routine, don't quite understand actually the full picture of it, and then go and then come to me actually and turn around and say, you know what, I think I chipped rubbish. I'd like you to look at my technique. And that's normally the cycle. And to move players away from that is difficult, but way more rewarding on score.
Okay, that leads me on nicely to my last question then. I was going to say, what do you think are the 3 top things? Again, don't give too much of your secrets away, but the top 3 things that you think people need to worry about when it comes to short game.
Reading's definitely up there for me. Just don't see it enough. So that is massive for me, for sure. I think you need to be able to strike it though, but I think it's hard to get away from that. My system of how a player gets really good, it's not a method. I don't have a method, but I have a system of how I think someone really gets to the top level is you need to be able to strike. If you can't strike it, you can't really develop as a player, because if you chunk it 2 feet in front of you, no point being able to read the shot. So It's a foundation though. You don't actually get any good at golf by being able to strike it. From there, reading is massive, and then ball speed is the other. So I think everyone's played with that 70-year-old man that hits bump and run 7 irons and gets up and down for the entire round and loses to him. But I think the art with the fact that he is able to strike it, he is able to read the situation and able to therefore adapt the ball speed depending on the distance away from the hole. So he has no flight control or spin control, but he's got great ball speed control, great ability of reading the shot, and ability to be able to strike the ball consistently. So therefore, does he perform quite high? Yes. And if you can start to understand that, I think a lot of people, what they really tend to do is work on flights straight off the bat, and which is fine. It's a high level skill thing. Do you need it to a certain degree? Yeah, to perform at a really high level, you do. But to perform at an okay level, not necessarily. And I like that analogy because I think it gives a good order of importance of actually what you need to be doing. But also understand the fact that strike is a foundation, not the end piece of actually being able to be a good golfer.
Great stuff. Well, Alex, thank you very much for coming on and giving us a very small insight into the world of short game. Obviously, don't give people too much information, because obviously we want to go to you. We want to come over to you and have a lesson and start to understand it better themselves. So hopefully this will instill a few people to actually start thinking about their short game, their wedges, and actually start learning how to do it properly.
Well, hopefully so, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I want people to get better. That doesn't mean you need to come to me. There's lots of great coaches around the UK, and but I think it's important to actually look at it and take it seriously. And I think if there was one message I would again say is the fact that if you strike your wedge well, it doesn't mean you're a good wedge player. Because I'll tell you what, there'd be a lot of better people out there, a lot better golfers if that was the case.
No, definitely, I think you're right. Well, again, thank you very much, Alex, and thanks for coming on and giving us time in your day, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Cheers, Lloyd. Thank you very much for having me on the podcast. It's been a pleasure.
So a massive thank you to Alex there for giving us a bit of time of his day to explain what it is he does and why he's so passionate about it. I think you can tell that from the way he talks, and he is literally just out there to help as many golfers as he possibly can. Now, if you like the stuff that Alex was talking about, you can check him out on his Instagram page, which is just Alex Buckner Golf. And you can also follow his podcast that he does, which he mentioned, called The Wedge Pod. That's available on most platforms. So yeah, go give us a subscribe and enjoy listening to the conversations he has. Thank you guys for listening to another episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes. And again, head over to Instagram. You can follow me at OnePuttLife. Thank you, and speak to you again soon.